Hi, good evening. Yes, good evening, everyone. So today we are going to look at how scoring is done in different study abroad exams. So the scoring is different for each one of them. Let's have a look at that. So yeah, so it is like different for different exams. So the exams that we're going to look at are IELTS, TOEFL, and PTE and Duolingo. So if we look at the scoring for IELTS and TOEFL is a little more difficult than it is for PTE and Duolingo. So let's look at each one of them. So IELTS, the scoring part in IELTS has band scores, and they give you like somewhere between 1 to 9 bands, anywhere between 1 to 9 bands, and a good score can be considered a band 8, and which is like more acceptable. In TOEFL, the scoring is done from 0 to 120. And usually the acceptable score is 110 to 114. PTE gives you a score of from 0 to 90. And the acceptable score is around 84 to 88. Duolingo gives a score between 10 to 160. And usually an acceptable score is 150 to 155. But then, yes, if we speak about acceptability, each university, each institution has its own requirement. They may accept a little lesser one also. That you will have to find out from the institute where you are applying for. Right? Let's move ahead from here. Okay. So in IELTS, the band score indicates your skill level in using English. So the band scores of the 4 modules are totaled and then divided by 4 to get the overall band score, right? So if you have like, we've got like these 4 modules. So we've got listening, reading, writing, and speaking, 4 in all. So whatever you get in each one of them. So let's say, so we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 modules. So let's say whatever you get over here, you got a 7 over here, you got 6.5 over here, you got 7.5 over here, and let's say you got an 8 over here. So they would just add this up and then divide it by whatever the sum is. They would divide it by 4, and that would be your overall score, right? So there's no pass or fail. So it's not like somebody has cleared it or passed it and somebody has failed it. It's just the band score just tells you where exactly do you stand, right? So band 1 is the lowest score, wherein the person is a non-user. Probably this person would not know anything about English, may not even be able to speak a single sentence of English. Okay, band 2 is an intermittent user, extremely limited user. That's band 3. Band 4 is a limited user. Band 5 is a modest user. Okay, band 6 turns into a competent user, can use, can speak, read, and write, is competent, just about competent enough. Okay, band 7 is considered to be a good user, wherein the person can speak well, write well, read well, is generally good at the language. Band 8 is a very good user, and band 9 is an expert user. So this is how your bands are divided. This is the information that your bands give. Okay. Now, in both IELTS listening and reading, there are 40 questions, right? So both listening and reading have 40 questions. Each question carries 1 mark, and there is no negative marking. Scores are calculated and given in whole and half bands. Well, in India, we don't really have half bands. Okay, so this is done in other countries, because I know for sure that in some other countries like Canada, for sure, we do have people getting point something, 6 point something and stuff like that. okay, we are speaking about the overalls. We do get that, right? So listening and reading, there are 40 questions and there is no negative marking. The good thing is that there is no negative marking. So you must attempt each and every question type. And scores are calculated in whole and in half bands. Yes, they are. So I'm sorry, that was my mistake. I just got confused with something. Okay. So in listening, if all 40 are correct, you get a 9. 38 to 39 is 8.5, and so on. 35 to 37 is band 8, and so on. Right? Now, I'll tell you over here something. It is very easy to score a band 9 in listening. It's really very easy. If you have done enough practice, it is super easy to score a band 9. Here at Yuno Learning, we have many people scoring a band 9, and many of them scoring a band 8 to 8.5 also. So this is something which is really very easy. You must go all out and go for your listening. Practice well on your listening and try to score a band 9 over here. Okay, that is if you're taking IELTS. And then coming to reading, the academic part. Again, 39 to 40 correct answers is band 9, 37 to 38 is band 8.5, and so on. Okay, let's move on from here. Now, talking about the writing. So writing task 1 and task 2. There's a calculation that they do, right? So you added and divided. So the band score of each criterion is added and divided by 4 to get the writing task 2 and writing task 1 band score. So like there are these 4, right? Task achievement, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, and grammatical range and accuracy. So what would happen is you would get a certain score over here, right? Depending on how you have written. For both, this is for task 1 and this is for task 2. For both of them, the criterion is the same. So whatever you get over here, all of that is divided by 4. So there are 4 of them, 4 parameters, right? So they would calculate that divided by 4, and that would come over here as your overall score. And then again as your overall score over here. Now, to get the overall score in writing task 2, score is doubled and task 1 score is added to it. So this whatever score you get over here will be multiplied by 2, and then this one will also be added. You don't really need to get into those calculations because you will not be doing those. This is just for your information. So they do this kind of calculation. They add this to it, and then it is divided by 3. Not really, I mean, it's not important for you to break your head over this one because this is not your job. Your job is just to prepare well and take the test and perform well. That's it. Don't break your head over these things. Right? But yes, this is good to know information. This is how the calculation is done. So even when you're doing your practice activity at home, you can just do this. Make your calculations that will give you a fair idea as to where you stand. Okay. Let's move ahead. How IELTS scores are interpreted, mapping of IELTS scores to CEFR level. So this is what does CEFR stands for? It stands for Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. So this is something that you will come across. CEFR. What is the CEFR level? People would ask you. And here is what it is. C2. So it starts from A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2, with C2 being the highest, which is a band score of 8.5 to 9. And then the band score of 7 to 8 is C1. And then it keeps on dropping, right? So this is what you are. So this is actually, the most common criterion that they would actually, you will come across whenever you're speaking about your proficiency level for English. So starts from A1, ends with C2, C2 being the highest and A1 being the lowest. So here is the description. So C2 is mastery or an expert user. C1 is effective operational proficiency, and so on. And A1 being a very basic user, right? Okay. How is the scoring done in TOEFL? Now let's come to TOEFL. Now TOEFL has two types of scores. They have a raw score and an actual score. Again, over here I would say that it's good to know information that you should be knowing that this is how it is done. However, you don't really have to get into the nitty-gritty of it, right? So yeah, so TOEFL reading and listening, there are two kinds of questions. Okay, there is a single choice answer and there is a multiple choice answer. Now, for single choice answers, each question or each answer is equal to 1 raw point. For multiple choice questions, each answer is equal to 2 or 3 raw points, right? Okay, now raw points add up to give the raw score. So you add this plus this, whatever you got, you just add up your raw points. You will be getting your raw points per question, right? So you just add up your raw points. And a maximum of 45 raw points in the reading section is equal to actual 30. So if you have got 45 as your raw points, we are talking about reading and listening over here, right? So if you have got 45 raw points, it would go to 30 actual score. Okay. A maximum of 34 raw points in the listening section is equal to 30 actual score. Okay, so here is a formula given. You can look into that if you want, and you can actually apply that. And again, there is no negative marking, which is really, really a blessing. Okay, all right. Now, coming to TOEFL speaking, there are 4 questions. Raw score for each question is 0 to 4, and maximum raw score is 16. TOEFL writing has 2 questions. Raw score for each question is 0 to 5. Maximum raw score is 10. Okay, let's move ahead from here. Let's look at Duolingo now. So Duolingo is scored out of 160. All scores are on a scale of 10 to 160. So the composite score, the overall score, 4 sub-scores, each ranging from 10 to 160. And how are they measured? What are the 4 sub-scores? Literacy. These are your various, like in the others we had, like in IELTS, we had reading, listening, writing, and speaking. Here we've got literacy as one of those. And what goes into literacy? Reading and writing skills. This is going to be like kind of integrated, right? So the reading and writing skills go into literacy. Comprehension is listening and reading skills. Conversation is speaking and listening skills. And production is speaking and writing skills, right? This one is considered to be the most difficult. And this is the one area where people get less score. Okay, so if you're taking the Duolingo test, this is where you really have to put all your focus. Okay, the production. Okay, let's move on from here. Again, talking about Duolingo, it has an adaptive scoring system. What is an adaptive scoring system? It simply means that it's AI based, right? So the AI is throwing questions at you. So if the AI feels that you're having difficulty in answering questions, it will throw slightly easier questions at you, right? Sounds really very nice that, okay, I'll get easier questions, but then there's a catch to it. You will get a lesser score. So if the AI has been forced to throw easier questions to you, it simply means that you were finding it difficult to answer the regular questions. Hence, the AI had to throw easier questions, which means your level of language proficiency is lower than what the AI or what is expected, right? Hence, you would get a lower score. On the other hand, if the AI feels that the questions seem to be quite easy for you, it might increase the difficulty level, right? So it goes both ways. And of course, if the difficulty level increases, you get a higher score, right? Okay, let's have a look at it. So again, it adapts to your skill. okay, in real time. Now, this simply means, again, what I just spoke about. Let's read it out. So if you answer correctly, the next question gets harder, right? So if you have given a correct answer, the next question is going to be a little more difficult. And if you answer incorrectly, the next question will be a little easier, because the AI is going to feel that, okay, this person is having a difficulty. Let me give easier questions. But then again, you get a lower score over here. So what does this ensure? That the test efficiency determines your English proficiency without being too long or repetitive. Okay. Now, AI-driven scoring, Duolingo and Duolingo score calculation. So the overall score is not an average of the sub-scores. Higher performance is one area, might impact the overall score more than an equivalent important improvement in another. So let's look at this one. What does this say? Higher performance in one area might impact the overall score more than an equivalent improvement in another area. So what if you get, like you've let's say you've done about 10 questions, okay, and you scored well in, let's say, about 6 of them. You scored really well. So those were really difficult questions. You got correct answers, obviously, so you get a higher score. But then there were, let's say, two or three of them which you were not able to answer, which you found difficult, right? So you'll get a lower score over there. So this might actually compensate, because in this one, it's like going to kind of compensate for the lower score. And you'll get a kind of very nice match of their calculations, okay? Now, Duolingo uses advanced AI algorithms to calculate the overall score. These algorithms consider not only the sub-scores, but also patterns in your responses. So what do you mean by patterns in your responses? Difficulty level and consistency, right? So it's going to look at what is your pattern of replying. Maybe how exactly are you replying it in a very monotonous way, in a repetitive way, right? So this is what the AI algorithm is going to look at. Example of subscores and overall score. So the overall score is determined by Duolingo's proprietary algorithm. So these are the subscores. This is what they're going to look at, like we looked at earlier also: literacy, comprehension, conversation, and production. So literacy, the value is around 110. Comprehension. So this is how, like, we are talking about how the overall score might be calculated. Okay. So let's say this is how the calculation looks like. Let's say you got 110 in literacy, you got 120 in comprehension, conversation you got 100, and production you got 90. The overall score would be calculated into 115, right? That's how the AI would be calculating. Okay, how Duolingo scores are interpreted. So can be mapped to other standardized tests and CEFR levels. It would be, again, we come to the CEFR level. 10 to 55 is A1. Here we begin, this is the beginner one, right? And the highest, 145 to 160, is C1 to C2. This is the advanced proficiency level. Okay. Let's look at PTE. How is the PTE scoring done? Scored on a 10 to 90. So anything between 10 to 90 is what PTE scoring looks like. And it uses an AI-driven evaluation system. Again, it's going to be an AI-driven evaluation. An aggregate of the performance in all the 4 sections: speaking, writing, reading, and listening. So here we have all the 4 modules: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And it's based on that you would be getting your score. How is the scoring done? In communicative skills, 10 to 90. And there are enabling skills, which are 10 to 90. What does the communicative skills include? It includes scores for the following skills: speaking, writing, reading, and listening. Let's have a quick look at what goes into each one of them. So these are the basic modules, right? So for speaking, what are they assessing? So assess through tasks like read aloud. Let me rub this out. Yeah. So what are those questions like? So read aloud, repeat sentence, and describe image. Here, because you're speaking out, you're reading. I mean, if you look at this question, the read aloud, you're reading something and you're also speaking. Repeating sentence gets a little more tough than read aloud. And describe an image. Okay, you've got to describe an image within 1 minute. Yeah, so you're speaking a lot, and they're assessing your speaking ability. Then writing includes summarizing written text and essay writing. Reading includes, these are tasks like multiple choice questions and reorder paragraphs. And listening includes tasks like summarize spoken text and fill in the blanks. Right? And here, enabling skills. So these skills support your overall communicative ability. What are the skills involved? Grammar. What do they look at? The correct usage of sentence structure. Oral fluency, the next one. Oral fluency looks at the natural flow and clarity in speaking. Okay. So when you're speaking, do you have a very natural flow? Are you clear? Okay. Whatever you speak, is it understandable? Is it easy to understand? Okay. Then pronunciation. Is your pronunciation easy to understand? Do you have a regional touch to your pronunciation? Many of us have that regional touch. We all come from different parts of the country. And, you know, many of us have the touch of that particular region that we belong to. Okay. Like north, south, east, and west. Each region has a slight, a very strong influence. Some people come with a very strong influence, which might be difficult to understand, right? So that should not be the case. So what do they look at? Accurate articulation of words. Spelling, of course, is really super duper important. Your spelling has to be correct. If you're spelling, and this is going to be like across all the tests, the spelling has to be correct. They're not going to let you go if the spelling is wrong. Okay. And then vocabulary, range and appropriateness of the words used. Okay. Now over here, I would like to say, vocabulary is not just about, adding words, a lot of synonyms and high-end words. It's not about that. Though, yes, that would definitely give you a big boost if you have been able to use them correctly, accurately. But the thing lies in whatever you use has to be accurate. Okay? So be very careful when you're using kind of memorized vocabulary or something, words that you're not very comfortable with. Best is don't use it. Okay. And then the next one is written discourse. Organization and logical sequencing of ideas in writing, right? So what does that mean? How have you organized your writing? You will be learning all that in the classes, right? So just follow those steps that will be taught to you. Writing an essay or writing a paragraph or whatever you're writing is not just about writing. It's about how you write. How do you structure it? How do you start? How do you develop the idea, whatever you're talking about? Okay, and how do you end it? All that has to be done in a certain sequence, in a certain structure. And that is what is going to get you your score. Fine. Okay, so these scores affect specific communicative skills, but are not directly reported to test takers, right? What do you mean by not directly reported to test takers? These are the ones, all these scores is something that you may never even come to know about it, right? You will only be given these scores. When you get your result, these are the things that will be given over here: speaking, writing, reading, and listening. These may not even be communicated to you. Okay, so here at Yuno Learning, we have extremely good preparation classes. We've got live online classes for all of these, IELTS, TOEFL, PTE, and Duolingo. And batches run between 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So you can pick your time, whatever time is most suitable to you. You can pick your time. We've got different types of courses. We've got an express course, a crash course, a comprehensive, and an intensive course. So whatever, depending on your requirement, you can speak to one of the counselors and they would explain each one of this in a better way. So we've had lots of students, 15,000 plus students have trained with us, and we've got 1,100 five-star Google reviews. You can go to Google, Yuno Learning, Google, and check it out. So we've got some really very beautiful reviews. Okay. If you're interested in taking up a course with Yuno Learning, you can fill this form and share it. It will be, there would be a form that will be shared with you. Just let me check it out. Has it come in? Yes, there it is, the form. Okay. So you can just take that form and fill it up. And in case you want to speak to one of the counselors or anybody from Yuno Learning, here is the number you can call up, right? Okay, so let's summarize it. So the IELTS band scores range from 0, which is a non-user, to band 9, so which is an expert user, right? Okay, TOEFL scores range from 0 to 120. And each section, reading, listening, speaking, writing, contributes up to 30 points. We spoke about that raw and actual score, right? So here, this, whatever you're getting over here is actually going to be the actual score. PTE is scored between 10 to 90, and it is an AI-driven evaluation system. Duolingo is scored between 10 to 160, and Duolingo is the only one exam which provides the fastest results. So it provides faster, more affordable English proficiency test. It is more affordable also. It's, I think, almost 50%. I'm not really very sure, but yes, it's really much lower than the other ones, right? And what I like about Duolingo is that the result is out within 2 days. I think the third day they give out the result, right? So depending on your requirement, I mean, the institute where you want to apply for, you will have to make a decision on which one do you want to take, which test is most appropriate for you. Is it IELTS, TOEFL, PTE, or Duolingo, right? Okay, now here is a comparison of CEFR levels across the 4 major proficiency tests. So if we look at all of them, IELTS, TOEFL, PTE, and Duolingo, here is how it looks like. So the C2. So the C2 is for IELTS is band 8.5 to 9. For TOEFL is 115 to 120. For PT is 85 to 90. And Duolingo score is 145 to 60. And that's how it keeps going on. You can take, this is a very good way of knowing exactly how to calculate your scores, okay, against the CEFR level. You can take a snapshot of this if you like. Okay, fine. So we are done with today's session. If you have any questions, you can ask in the chat box, or we are good to go.